Welcome to KURE Sports on ISUtv. I'm Taylor Mankle here, welcomed by Michael Murrell and Michael Mainzer. And of course, this is simulcast on 88.5 KURE Ames Alternative. A reminder, the views and opinions expressed during this talk show are solely those of the hosts and other contributors. These views and opinions do not represent those of Iowa State University, KURE, the KURE Board of Directors, or any other members or contributors to KURE or ISUtv. So, let's get into it. This is the first week that we have had the luxury to talk some NBA. We're going to preview the whole season here. It's going to be huge on KURE Sports on ISUtv. We're going to start off with the big player of the year. Who's going to be MVP this season in the NBA? We'll start off with Michael Murrell.
I got Russell Westbrook.
That's a safe pick there.
It is a safe pick, but I think Russell Westbrook, without Kevin Durant on this team, is really going to have a chance to really take control of that team. It's really going to be his team for the first time.
For sure.
Even when Durant was injured, and it wasn't, people didn't really see it as Westbrook's team. It was Durant's team that Westbrook was kind of running at the time. And so this will be the first time it's his team from the beginning. Everyone's looking for him to make plays, and I think he's going to have a chance to really do something in OKC. And I think the West is going to be not quite as good as they've been in years past, outside the Warriors, of course. I think they have a chance to maybe get a 2, 3, maybe a 4 seed in the West, and that's enough for him to get a MVP.
I laid out the top 5 according to the odds. Number 1, you went with the chalk. That's Russell Westbrook. It goes Westbrook, Curry, James, Durant, and then James Harden. So LeBron James is number 3.
Yeah.
And so I think Curry and Durant are going to take away from each other. Most people expect that. So we don't really expect to see an MVP out of the Warriors. Their team is just going to be so good.
Agreed.
I don't know about Russell Westbrook. I could definitely see it happening. I wouldn't be surprised, but I think there's a lot of pressure on him to deliver as the MVP like most people expect. So I'm going to go with James Harden.
Really?
Yeah. Last season, he averaged 29 points per game and 7.5 assists. No more Dwight Howard, no more Ty Lawson to take away minutes, and he's now the point guard under Mike D'Antoni. They're saying he's going to be like Steve Nash and just put up crazy numbers, and the Rockets might not be good, but James Harden is still very good, and I could see him taking away the MVP as long as they make sure they still are in the playoffs.
I find that hard to believe because, granted,
the defense isn't there.
The defense isn't there. I think that plays a role. It doesn't play a big role, but I don't know if he's going to flourish as well as you think he will in that point guard position. Granted, there have been a lot of different point guards that have flourished under D'Antoni's system. I don't think he has the passing ability there. He's shown it in the preseason, but that's preseason NBA basketball. Yeah. Take what you want from it. But that's an interesting pick. I'll try to stay out of the box, not pick one of your two guys. Westbrook's a real safe pick. I like that pick a lot. I think that's the most likely, as does Vegas, but I'm going to go with one out of the box. I'm going to go Kyrie Irving. I'm going to go Kyrie Irving here. I read an article today about how Tyronn Lue's trying to get him to buy into the Kobe mantra, how he's trying to get him to have the confidence to not worry about anything except his shot. Yeah. That's a dangerous game when you're playing with LeBron James, a potential Kobe Shaq scenario brewing in Cleveland. But I think Kyrie Irving showed sparks of that, if not a decent amount of that, in the finals, in Game 7 of the finals, taking that game, leading his team back into that series. I think that is a potential MVP candidate right there that could be a dark horse. I'll go with that this season.
Yeah, and people forget in that finals, LeBron James had just insane numbers in those last few games, but the whole series, Kyrie was putting up great numbers for the whole finals.
Sure.
Most years, that'd be MVP type numbers. He just happened to be on the same team as LeBron James.
And consistency is the name of the game for the MVP race throughout his season. If he can stay healthy, knock on wood for Kyrie, I think he's got a good shot of it. Now let's move over to Coach of the Year this year in the NBA. We'll start with you, Mainzer.
Yeah, and I think we're both going to have the same one, but I'm going to go with Tom Thibodeau. We're both Bulls fans. He's the former coach over there. And I really do think that in that first year with, Wiggins, Towns, Chris Dunn, he's got so many defensive weapons and he's a defensive-minded coach. I can't see how that team is not going to win at least 10 or 15 more games than they did last season.
Yeah. I like Thibodeau as well. There's a lot of talent on that team, and Thibodeau has the ability to just really take a team and get them to play well every night. When he was with the Bulls were one of the most consistent teams in the entire NBA. And I think you're going to see that again out of Thibodeau. That's going to be one of the best defensive teams in the NBA this year. I really believe that, especially with Karl-Anthony Towns back there to defend the paint. So I think that's going to be a very good team this year.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying that. I think they'll be much improved. I don't think they'll be great yet, maybe not even good yet, but I think it will be a very improved team. I think I got to give it to, and I hate to do this as one of my vested teams is in the Atlantic Division, but I'm going to go with Brad Stevens here.
Yeah.
He's been doing fantastic since his transition over into the NBA, and granted, you could give him this award basically every year he's been in the NBA thus far. I think this year they have the best chance to make that leap to the top spot in the Atlantic Division. I don't think they're going to do it, but they have that opportunity to take that jump, and I think that he will definitely lead them to that, and that'll look very good for him. All right, let's jump down a level. Let's go Rookie of the Year. We'll start with you, Murrell.
Yeah, I got Brandon Ingram. It's I think it's kind of a safer pick, but I think he's going to have a good year this year. I honestly thought he was the best player in this draft class. I liked him better than Ben Simmons. As a functional player in the NBA. I just didn't like Ben Simmons.
Can he still grab it coming off the bench?
Yeah, we'll see if he comes off the bench. I think he has the potential to
Become a starter.
But he's starting
into
on the bench.
lineup. Yeah, so we'll see how long he's on the bench, but I think Brandon Ingram has the chance to surprise some people this year.
What do you think, Mainzer?
Yeah, so I laid it out again. Ingram was number 3.
Mm-hmm.
The top one, according to the Vegas odds, is Chris Dunn right now. So it goes Dunn, Hield, Simmons is no more with his injury, Ingram, and then Embiid. I think Embiid is going to be the best player out of this draft class. Or he's not in this draft class, but he's now a rookie, finally healthy. But I don't think he's going to win the Rookie of the Year just because he's a center. And so I'm going to give it to Buddy Hield. He's jumping right into a perfect scenario. It's him and Anthony Davis and pretty much nobody else, and he showed how good of a scorer he was at Oklahoma, so I could easily see him running away with this, but it's pretty wide open right now. There's a couple solid options.
I think it is very open. I think Buddy is a decent choice, but I don't think his transition to the NBA is going to be quite that fast. He could probably have a decent year in New Orleans. I don't think he'll have a Rookie of the Year. I think I got to go with the favorite here. I got to go with Chris Dunn. Point guard position, obviously, you see he'll have the ball. He'll be making a lot of decisions, and I think that'll be seen a lot through the committee who selects the Rookie of the Year. Let's go back a little bit more. Who, from a team that had a bad year or from a player who had a bad year, who's going to be the bounce-back player of this year? We'll start with you, Mainzer.
And it wasn't necessarily a bad player or team, but just one that I think didn't
disappointed.
They disappointed. They didn't live up to expectations, and I think they definitely will this year. And that's the Milwaukee Bucks. And the player that I'm thinking of is Jabari Parker. The guys surrounding him, we know that they have the Greek Freak, Chris Middleton, Thon Maker they just signed. So they're going with the length. They're going with a new style of trying to be one of the biggest, longest teams in the NBA. And I think Jabari had that potential. People were expecting so much out of him, and he's been okay. But I think this year is the year that he finally makes the leap and helps the Bucks become maybe a 4 or 5 seed.
What do you think, Murrell?
Okay, so I mentioned the T-Wolves earlier. I think the Timberwolves are going to really surprise some people this year. I think what a lot of people forget with Thibodeau is how good Joakim Noah was with Thibodeau as a coach. He was first-team all-defense. He was, a top center in the East.
His 4th in MVP voting one year.
Yeah, Joakim Noah was flourished under Tom Thibodeau, and I think you can see Karl Anthony Towns doing the same thing this year. I think, I know he won Rookie of the Year this year. I think he could be in MVP conversation by the end of the year.
Really? That's high praise. This is difficult. I don't think they're going to be good, but they were so bad last year that it'll be quite a jump to where they're going to be at the end of this year. They're a very young team. I got to go with the Lakers here. I like what they did in the offseason, getting Luke Walton on staff, heading that team, bringing him back to LA. I think will eventually get them to being great once again, and the NBA's better when the Lakers are great. Trust me.
Mm-hmm.
But
I agree.
Regardless, I think that they will have a bounce-back year. They might not even make the playoffs, but if they can get near that fringe, that's a really big bounce-back from where they were last year. Okay, end of the year, are we singing the same music? As in, who's the worst team?
Mm-mm.
Really?
No.
Who's going to be the new worst team?
There's 2 that stand out pretty bad. The Nets. I have the Nets. I think the Sixers with Embiid and just they're getting closer to becoming somewhat relevant. I can see this. The Nets and Sixers, you probably can't even name a player on the Nets. They're both terrible. The Nets were barely better than the Sixers last year. The Sixers are really bad, and anyone who answers that the worst team is the Sixers is not wrong at all. Yeah. But I'll pick the Nets just to pick somebody else.
Yeah, we're not wrong at all, Murrell, are we?
No. The 76ers are the worst team in the NBA, and they will continue to be until they prove otherwise.
Yeah.
They year after year have proven time and time again, they just find ways to lose game after game after game. You see them have like 15-point leads in the fourth quarter, and they still find a way to lose by 20 points.
Agreed.
I mean, it's remarkable how bad this team has been over the past few years. And from a team that in the mid-2000s was a decent team, making the playoffs a lot, and it's the way they've fallen off is just incredible.
Yeah, it's an embarrassment. They're, again, going to be the worst team in
Trust
the
the
NBA.
process.
What process?
There's
They're
no
going to have
process.
Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, Nerlens Noel. They're going to have, I mean, if Ben Simmons didn't get hurt, would you say they were going to be the worst team?
Yes,
I would not.
I would.
And I still don't.
I know
They
you
have
don't.
Brooklyn Nets.
Who's starting in that backcourt? Who's handling the ball the majority of the
No, I
time?
couldn't tell you.
Somebody's got to get it to him. I don't think Ben Simmons can take it up and down the court with that foot right now. Let's change this one up. Who's the best team that's not the Warriors?
Okay.
That's not the Warriors?
That's not the Warriors.
Mainzer, you can go.
On your toes,
Okay,
Mainzer.
I'm going to go with the San Antonio Spurs.
Okay.
I know a lot of people would get mad at that pick just because the Cavs won the finals and people will say they still don't get the credit. Everyone still thinks the Warriors, and in this case, the Spurs are better. But if you look at the regular season, the Spurs were so dominant and the Warriors just kind of overshadowed them.
For sure.
I think that if the Spurs had played the Cavs in the finals, they might have won, similar to how the Spurs, when they played the Heat, put up a very good contest. I know that the Spurs-Cavs series would have been very different, but once again, I think that just the continued greatness of Greg Popovich, Kawhi Leonard, I mean, they just signed a couple more guys in free agency. I think the Spurs are just a little bit better than the Cavs.
Okay, Murrell?
I think it might be the Cavs, but for the sake of argument, I'm not going to go with the Cavs because I think it is closer than with some other teams. I like the Celtics. I really do like the Celtics. I think they're going to make a huge jump this year.
Second best team in the NBA.
I think there's potential there for the second best team in the NBA.
I go Clippers
think so
over
at all.
Celtics.
I could probably name 4 or 5 teams that I would pick above them.
I think the
We'll
Celtics
see.
are right there, though.
They're close to being elite, but I don't think this is the year they make that jump. I don't think
You
they make
must
that
like
jump
Al
for the NBA.
Horford.
Yeah, that's high praise for Horford.
I think Al Horford. It's not necessarily Al
I
Horford.
don't think he
it's
fits
more.
that system very well.
I think he's just it's going to be a big benefit to the team, adding some experience in the front court.
Okay. Just to be different, I'll say the Cavs. They've got dominant players, and they didn't lose anything.
They won the NBA Finals.
Yeah, they're the reigning.
They have LeBron.
team. They've got LeBron. They've got Kyrie. They got Kevin Love. All right, so let's jump into favorites from each division. Who wants to start? And when you're giving this, I want your favorite personally, not your favorite chalk. Who's gonna win? Who's your favorite in these divisions?
So like
your
favorite team?
No, like your pick for the
Okay.
favorite for who's gonna win.
Well, I think it will usually be chalk for some of us, but
Yeah, sure.
we can start with the Southeast.
Mm-hmm.
They look pretty bad. I mean, the Heat now lost Dwayne Wade. I mean, Goran Dragic and them are still there, but I don't think the Heat are going to take it anymore. Or
Sure.
They were second last year, but I'm going to go with the Atlanta Hawks still. They're still a solid team, and it's one of those where the coach, Mike Budenholzer, kind of keeps them going, keeps them in the playoffs.
Okay. I like the Hawks in this division as well. I think Dwight Howard will do
Yeah,
well
Dwight.
there. I think he will have a good season, finally being able to, once again, probably be a centerpiece to a team, which he hasn't been able to do for the last, whatever it is, 4 or 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
I think they'll win this division.
In the Southeast, I'll go with Charlotte. I think Charlotte is.
That's a good pick.
I think Charlotte is going to continue to grow as they've done the past couple years.
Okay. What we got next, Michael?
We can go. Oh, both Michael.
Michael.
I'll lead it. We can go over to the Atlantic, which your beloved Raptors are in. I don't actually have them in last. That was just for fun. But I don't have them in first.
Okay.
I'm going to go with the Boston Celtics, who you probably are going to go with, because I know you have high praise for them.
It's a popular
And
pick.
I also think that the New York Knicks are going to be better than most people expect. I know that like Rose and Noah are past their primes, and they're signing Brandon Jennings, but Carmelo and Kristaps are still very good. So I could see the Knicks knocking on the door of those Raptors.
Okay. Respectable. What do you got?
I'm gonna go with the Celtics, but it's very close.
Yeah.
They're both.
But they're the
both
second
at
best team in the NBA.
Who's the second best team, and they barely beat the Raptors in the Atlantic.
I think they edged the Raptors, but I think that it's very close between those
Between
top
those two.
three,
Okay.
between the Cavs, the Raptors, and the Celtics.
Okay. I really have a tough time picking this one. Obviously a fan of the Raptors, but I think I do have to go Celtics this year based on the matchups last year with the Raptors. The Raptors didn't do really anything in the offseason except lose Bismack Biyombo. They gained Jared Sullinger. That's about it.
Pretty even.
They got a pretty good draft class, but regardless, I don't think it's going to be enough. I think the Celtics gain more than the Raptors did in the offseason. And in the head-to-heads against the Celtics and the Raptors, the Celtics were I think they had one game above the Raptors in all of last season, so just a slight edge there. I think I'd give the Celtics that division.
Okay, we can move on to the Central. I think we all are going to say that the Cavs are number one. So I guess,
Cavs.
Yeah.
So if we want, we could say who we think will be number 2. We're Bulls fans, but I'm probably going to go with the Pacers.
Oh, it's got to be.
Yeah, it's got to be the
I
Pacers.
mean, the Bulls have a
gotta be.
chance to surprise teams with Dwayne Wade and Jimmy Butler both there.
Don't. Not to be
right.
second.
No.
I think
The
they
Pacers
could.
looked really good at the end of the year.
They did. So,
They did.
I mean, the Pacers are going to be a fun team to watch. They were really good, and then Paul George went down. So,
Yeah.
with Paul George back and finally healthy, that should be a cool team to watch. We can move on next. The Southwest is kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
San Antonio Spurs.
The board, Spurs, moving on.
Pacific is the biggest board. That's the Golden
Yep.
State
Yep.
Warriors.
Golden
Chalk.
State.
Yep.
And then the last one is a intriguing one. The Northwest. I
There's
can
like-
let you guys go first in this one.
There's 4 teams I could see.
I'll go first. I think Portland takes it.
Really?
I think Portland takes it. I'm hoping that Damian Lillard gets a little more help this year. I think that Portland does take this one.
I mean, look at this division. I can see 4 teams potentially making a jump.
It's going to be tight.
It's going to be very close. Just because what I said earlier, I think Minnesota is really going to make a jump this year. So I'll go
Your
Minnesota.
number one?
As my number one. I think all 4 teams, Oklahoma City, Portland, Utah, Minnesota, are all going to be right there at the end of the year.
Okay.
Yeah, you mentioned Utah. None of us had the Thunder, which is a little bit surprising, but you mentioned Utah. I'm going to go with the Jazz.
Really? Even after Hayward got hurt?
Yeah, I mean, they still have Gobert, Favors. They added George Hill, Joe Johnson, Boris Diaw. They've got Trey Lyles and Dante Exum off the bench, and Rodney Hood, who's a good shooter. It's just a deep team, and I feel like with the defensive presence of Gobert and Favors, and then they're eventually going to get Hayward back. Boris Diaw is a great veteran presence. I really like him from the Spurs. I just think that they have enough pieces, and they're the most complete team. If the Thunder, if Russell Westbrook goes down, the Timberwolves are still far away. The Trailblazers aren't bad, but I think they don't have a ton of besides Damian Lillard, so that's why I'm going to go with the Utah Jazz.
All right, that's all we have time for here on our NBA preview right here on KURE Sports on ISUtv. Do not move a muscle. We'll be right back with some NFL talk. Welcome back to KURE Sports on ISUtv. I'm Taylor Mankle. Welcome with 2 new two new guests. We've got Hunter Smith back on the show and Ben Olson for the very first time. We're going to talk some NFL right here on KURE Sports on ISUtv. We're going to start off with the week that was, Week 6, just wrapping up last night. I want both you guys to give me your best game of this last week. We'll start with you, Hunter.
I got to give it to New Orleans and Carolina. This was a game that, in the fourth quarter, it was an out-of-market game, so I couldn't watch it, but I remember just watching it go by on the ticker, and they scored constantly, just a constant scoring game. I mean, 31 combined points in the fourth quarter. And then this was a game that Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints, they've been shaky this season, so it was a game that, we were able to look at them and see, is this a serious team that can contend this year? And then, of course, Cam Newton just coming off of his concussion injury, seeing what he could do with the Panthers, but an interesting game. It was too bad we couldn't have watched it, but I think that's going to be my game of the week.
No, and it was very interesting the fact that the Panthers did lose, and now we're up to a 1-5 start. What was your game of the week, Ben?
I'm going to have to go with Atlanta at Seattle.
I like that one.
26-24 game. I really saw it as a statement by Seattle that I feel like people were kind of forgetting about them.
For sure.
And Atlanta came in with the number one offense, and Richard Sherman and Earl Thomas, those guys got it done. The D-line had 4 sacks. That was a big thing for me. And I don't know, I really just think that that was Seattle's statement saying, don't forget about us, we're still good over here.
No, I totally agree with that one, Ben. I think that has to be my game of the week as well. Just being able to, in the NFC that's had so much parity this year, we don't really know what to make of it yet. Obviously the Vikings are great, but everything else kind of past that is what's going on. Dallas is good. Green Bay might be bad. What's happening? But I really do agree with that. Seattle, I think they solidified their spot as near the top of the NFC right now. So let's jump into the quarterback corner, as we've coined it. We'll start with the question, Dak or Romo? I mentioned the Cowboys. We'll start with you, Ben. Do you start going into next week saying Romo is healthy as he was expected to be? Do you start Dak Prescott or Tony Romo?
Growing up, I was always taught, if it's not broke, don't fix it. And I got to go with Dak. I say, at least for the regular season, they got to ride him out. And, any quarterback with Zeke and Dez on the team probably isn't going to be too bad. Mm-hmm. But, I understand where Jerry Jones is coming from because they got a big salary for Tony Romo, and he's been Jerry Jones and Garrett's guy for however long.
Buds, yeah.
You don't want to shy away from him. I'm sure he feels like the kid being left out at recess, but you got to go with Dak.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Dak has done great things while he's been there, and he has been tested. They've had some tough games, and I think the big parts of that I see, I looked at the statistics, and it was like in however many games, 6 now that Dak has played. And his comparable stats to Tony Romo's last 6 started games, the yards were about the same. The touchdowns were about the same. The accuracy, completion percentage was about the same. But the difference was Dak Prescott has 1 interception. Tony Romo has 8 interceptions.
Yeah.
Dak Prescott starts. What do you think?
Last week, before this Green Bay game, Jerry Jones said, don't make any predictions. We like Romo, we like Prescott, but we don't know where we're at. And I think after this Green Bay game, I think they're going to lean towards Prescott. Granted, he had his first interception, and I think the main reason was, a friend of mine tagged me in this, but Brett Favre before the game patted him on the shoulder, and he says that's the reason that he got picked off.
The gunslinger rubbed off.
Yeah, a little bit of gunslinger on. But I think you got to give it to Prescott. The way that he played, and especially last week against Green Bay, just embarrassed him up at Lambeau.
Yeah, he did.
And just the way that he's been playing it, and especially, that's the biggest thing, 1 interception. That's something you will never, ever see out of Romo.
No, that's exactly right. Let's move on to the quarterback corner. Big Ben officially out against New England. Can the Steelers win without him? We'll start with you, Hunter.
This is a tough one for me, and I think the biggest thing is who they have up next. They got to play against the Patriots.
Yeah.
This is Tom Brady, who is ticked. He's upset. He is steamrolling every team that gets in his way right now. New England was already doing it without him, and now it's even worse. So I think that, look for Bell to have a good game. I think that's going to be their only shot, but I think without Big Ben, I don't think they got it.
What do you think, Ben?
I completely agree with Hunter. Next week, Steelers have no shot. But I don't know what the timetable is for Big Ben's return, but I wouldn't rule him out of the postseason at all.
No,
the Steelers,
no.
I think Le'Veon Bell's really gonna have to pick up the load, and not this next week will they win, but they'll be fine.
Yeah, I think it's kind of you can kind of throw in next week for the Steelers. I don't think they really have a shot in this game. But obviously you've got some great offensive stars. Try to lean on them a little more. Obviously it's going to be a very run-heavy game for the Steelers and both Bell and Williams, but that's not going to be enough against the Patriots. Now, last but not least, Colin Kaepernick started in this game this last week against Buffalo. Do you like the QB change here? We'll start with you, Ben.
That's a tough call.
Yeah.
I mean, the 49ers really don't have much going for them.
Yeah.
But I like the shakeup. I like Chip Kelly's thinking. I think Cap works better for his coaching style.
One would think, yeah.
Yeah, and I think really Kaepernick needs to get back to his old self, like that playoff game against Green Bay. That sticks out in my mind when he ran all over them, and it was like people were like, NFL quarterbacks can run.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think Cap is a special athlete, but he needs to either get back to that because he could be effective. So they should stick with him, see how it works.
Did you like the start, Hunter?
You know, way back when they traded off Alex Smith and decided to go with Kaepernick, I didn't like him really from the start. I thought Alex Smith was always the better quarterback, but then he went to that Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And granted that they lost, nonetheless, he had a good game and he proved himself that season.
I agree.
And I think for them to kick him back and not let him get the start, I think that was wrong from them from the start, and I think that they've proved that. He came out rusty against the Bills. I think we all saw that, and I think that he's going to improve as the weeks go on because you can't get the same scenario in practice as you can in a game, whether it's high school or whether it's college, whether it's the NFL. It's never the same. So I think you've got to stick with him, and I think you're going to see improvements from him in the weeks to come.
Yeah, I agree. I think it'll just come more and more improvement. I don't like that they didn't start him at the beginning of the season either. You can't tell me that Blaine Gabbert's a better quarterback than him.
Yeah.
You can't sit there and tell me that with a straight face. That's just not true. All right, on to other things. The Bills and Cardinals have started to right the ship. It started off real rough for these teams, real confusing starts to their seasons. But do you think that this will continue on in the coming weeks? We'll start with you, Hunter.
I think the Cardinals can, especially now that Palmer's back. I mean, him and Larry Fitzgerald, that's a dangerous combination.
They're gelling.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that they can bring it back. I think that they can. And, anything can happen on Sunday night, and they got to take on Seattle. And Seattle's improved, but I don't think it's going to be enough, especially with Palmer back. I think the Cardinals are going to take care of business, and I think they're going to continue to here in the weeks to come.
Do you think the Cardinals keep it going, Ben?
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree. We just talked about how Seattle said, don't forget about us, but I have the Cards still winning the division.
Yeah.
I can see, I was very surprised by their start.
Mm-hmm.
And the Bills, well, I'm kind of surprised they're doing as good as they are.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think there's no way they can compete with the Patriots because they're on a mission right now.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't rule out like a wild card. I don't know. I can see them finishing strong in the AFC.
No, I agree. The Bills were really fighting for life, and Rex Ryan was fighting for his job just what it seemed like 3 weeks ago. And now they're on the right track. Do you think they have any shot in this division?
I think they have a shot, but I think the biggest thing, they beat the Patriots once. I'll give them that, but they can't get them again. I don't think it's possible. I think it is physically impossible for them to get it. Next week, this week, I think they can get Miami. I think they can get past them even though they're playing in Miami. But overall, it's the Patriots' division to lose.
Okay.
I think that they can get second in the division. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I think they can easily get over the Jets and the Dolphins.
For sure.
I think Patriots got it.
Okay. Now we move on to the Minnesota Vikings here, one of the curious cases of this NFL season. Are they the best team in the NFL? Ben?
Well, you're asking a lifelong Vikings fan right here. So I'm going to have to say obvious yes.
Obvious.
Coming into this
better than the Patriots.
season, I was more excited than I have ever been for the potential for this team. And then the Teddy loss and the AP loss. But we're 5-0. That's got to say something about this defense and this team. So.
They're very good, Ben, but I don't think they're the best team in NFL. What do you think, Hunter?
I mean, undoubtedly, they're on top of the NFC. There's not a team in the NFC that's going to compete with them. I would love to see the Patriots offense and their defense battle it out. Yeah. But as far as the best in the NFL, I think that still you got to look at the Patriots. You've got to look at the Broncos, even though they've kind of slipped a bit, and Pittsburgh, even though they're without Big Ben just for this week. But as far as the best in the NFL, I can't give it to him yet. Granted, Sam Bradford has 0 interceptions so far on the season. I mean, that's something. I mean, everybody was talking about Prescott with his 0 interceptions. Yeah. Sam Bradford doesn't have any either. Granted, it's not really the Vikings' offense that you're looking at. It's their defense that's the one that's winning them games big time.
Agreed.
But I think as far as the best in the NFL, not quite ready to say that yet.
Not quite yet. Not quite yet.
This Philly matchup this week has me worried, though.
Does it? Yeah?
Yeah.
The Vikings are coming off the bye. We're going to be fresh, but they're also known for coming out a little lackluster. And the Eagles have lost 2 in a row now. They're probably getting pretty mad. They got Sam Bradford coming in. They probably think he's sticking his nose up at him. I mean, look where he is now.
Yeah.
I would expect the Eagles to give him a good run for their money and kind of show off what they got.
Yeah, I think this game is definitely by far my game of the week, which moves us into the next segment. I think this will be a very entertaining game against a defense and then a young, unproven Eagles team that had a very good start to their season. Are there any other games to look out for this week?
Besides the Pittsburgh and New England game, I think that's going to be a big one. I'm also looking at the Monday night game between Denver and, who are they playing?
They play the Texans.
Texans, yes. Texans just coming off that big win against Indianapolis. I don't think anybody was expecting that, at least I wasn't. I mean, and that's the thing about the AFC South.
Yeah.
It is a complete train wreck. Anyone can win it, including Jacksonville.
Yeah.
This is the Jaguars. The Jaguars don't win.
I'd like to see
They
that.
lose, and we laugh at them. But overall, I got to give it to them because this is a Denver team that's trying to prove themselves in the AFC still. They proved themselves last year, and I think they're still trying to show themselves this year what they can do. And then, of course, Houston trying to right everything, especially now after that big overtime win against Indy.
That was a big win. And that's all we've got time for here on this segment, this NFL segment here on KURE Sports on ISUtv. We're going to take a short break. We'll be back with some MLB talk with Michael Murrell back at the desk. Back on KURE Sports on ISUtv, I'm Taylor Mankle. Once again, Michael Murrell back at the desk, this time to talk America's game. That is baseball. It's playoff season, Michael.
Yeah.
Your Cardinals aren't in it. How's that feel?
It's
that
weird.
Yeah,
It's
I bet.
weird. I'm not used to it.
None
used
of us
to,
are.
I'm used to postseason Cardinals baseball. I still love playoff baseball. I've been watching the whole postseason, so still excited to talk about baseball.
We
as
do have a
always.
lot to talk about. It's been an interesting postseason, to say the least. We'll start with the divisionals. Give me some hot takes from these divisional games.
I was really surprised what happened in the AL.
Yeah.
That was shocking to me. Both the Red Sox and the Rangers, who most people would have said was the favorites to come out of the AL.
I agree.
And rightfully so, and both get swept. I mean, that was just incredible. To me.
Question: which is the more surprising to you sweep, the Rangers or the Red Sox?
Probably the Red Sox.
I agree.
I was really surprised I'm still surprised what Cleveland is doing. I really thought the Red Sox were gonna be a lot better. Another hot take I had, this is something I shared in the midweek roundup last week, was what happened with Big Papi at the end of, not a lot of people talk about it, but at the end of the game, he went out onto the mound, to give a final farewell to Fenway. And all I remember seeing was out there was all those cameramen just surrounding the mound. I was thinking, like, that's not really what I was expecting to see Papi's final farewell.
Yeah, I think that was the bigger takeaway for me, that sweep for sure. I did not by any means see the Red Sox finishing in a sweep whatsoever. I thought that I'm pretty sure I had them going to the series in the end, potentially against Chicago, but obviously that's to be seen as well. So let's talk about Cleveland, who's just been dominant, to say the least, to start this playoff series. Right now they're in the bottom of the 7th, losing to Toronto in Game 3, but still potentially a chance to come back in that game and sweep this one as well. What has been the key to their dominant playoff run?
The pitching.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the pitching. Like, we all knew the Cleveland's strength was their pitching. We knew it from the whole season. That was their strength all year. And we knew they were good. We knew, but none of us thought they were this good.
No.
I mean, this was a Rangers offense that just the Blue Jays offense that just lit up the Rangers, who don't have a bad pitching staff. Just putting up tons of runs, hitting tons of home runs. And so through 3 games, I don't know what they've been doing. I know what they're doing this game right now. But through 3 games, they scored, I think, 3 runs and only had 1 home run against that Cleveland staff. I mean, it's just been amazing what they've been doing in this series.
Yeah, and a quick update right now. It is 4-1 in favor of Toronto right now in the bottom of the 7th. And it looks like, Toronto also has a runner on second, so for those in need of the know. But so potentially forcing an extra game there and giving Cleveland their first loss. How do you think Cleveland would react if they got their first loss of the playoffs? Would they totally unravel?
No. You see teams like the Blue Jays potentially unraveling because it's a hitting team, which is so much more mental. Pitching, when you're that strong pitching, you don't unravel. It just doesn't seem to happen. I think they come out. If they lose tonight, they come out and win tomorrow.
I agree. I totally agree. Let's look at the other series going on right now. We've got LA in Chicago, headed back to LA now, tied at 1 apiece. Obviously, Kershaw had a dominant night the other night. Talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, it was, one thing that Kershaw's gotten a lot of heat for over the years is that he hasn't pitched.
Playoff performance,
he hasn't done well in October. It's just something that he hasn't gotten down. And you have to wonder, part of that was his innings. Part of that is just he's been eating up all those innings in the regular season, and then this year he had those 2 months where he was injured.
Yep.
So he got that rest in his arm, and he's been lining up. I mean, that was a dominating performance. It was
the best offense in baseball.
Yeah. I mean, it was a legacy building performance. Is what it was.
I totally agree.
You look at the play performances like Madison Bumgarner in 2013. Kurt Schilling's big blood sock performance back in '04. You look at legendary performances, and that's right up there. Just going out there, and he's been pitching so much this postseason too, and just going out there and just taking over that game.
Yep, taking over a game against one of the best offenses in Wrigley on Game 2 with all the momentum on Chicago's side after a huge come-from-behind win the other night. Yeah, that was definitely, I like what you said, a legacy builder.
Yeah, and let's remember, the Dodgers only scored 1 run.
Just one.
Just one. He had no margin of error.
No, he didn't.
To get that W, and he went out there and he did it.
And they kept him out there for a long time. That was his victory, to say the least.
Yeah.
Now let's look on the other side, somebody who's been really making some noise for Chicago this postseason and late in this season. Javi Baez. How? That's my biggest question, because he was with the I-Cubs for a while, and he led the minor leagues in errors per inning. And he is probably one of the most exciting, both offensively and defensively,
and base running
players in the league right now. Where's this turnaround from Javi Baez come?
There's just some guys that just have it. They have that edge about it when it comes to postseason baseball. And just as a pure baseball fan, I'm a Cardinals fan, so I don't like the Cubs. No. But as a pure baseball fan, Javier Baez is fun to watch. The plays he makes, when he's still home, that was pure instinct.
It was.
That was something that if he gets thrown out, it's like, what an idiot. And he went there, and Joe Madden came out and said, like, I'm not about to coach instinct out of him. There's sometimes where you shake your head, and there's sometimes like wow. And Javier Baez has had a lot of wow moments every game throughout the postseason. It just seems like Javier Baez is just making one key play. You look at
your Javier Baez moment.
Yeah, you look at game 2. Even though they lost, they had first and second. With one out,
he let the ball drop.
It was a line drive, and he just let it drop, and he threw it to second, and everyone was confused on who was out. No one was even for sure who was out at second base because if he caught it, Adrian Gonzalez was out. Either way, it's a double play, but everyone was so confused.
No, I agree. Like Addison Russell, one of the best young defenders in baseball, had no idea what was happening. Standing with the ball.
The only player who knew what was happening on the field was Javier Baez.
Exactly.
And I mean, it's just been incredible to watch. He comes up with key hits when he needs to. He comes up with key fielding plays and base run, and he's doing it in all aspects of the game. And he's like, if you were ranking players on the Cubs team, he's like 7th, 8th, 9th. Like he's not even, and that just shows you how good this Cubs team is.
No,
I mean,
it's very true.
he's had an incredible performance.
So these being said, I want your picks. We'll start off with the Cleveland-Toronto series. Obviously, Cleveland leading that series right now. Do you have them finishing it off?
Yeah, I mean, down 4-1, they probably aren't going to win it tonight. But even if Toronto gets a game 5 win, I just don't see how they can pull off 2 wins in Cleveland with the way that pitching staff is going. Cleveland just looks so good right now.
They do. I agree with you. And what do you think of the LA-Chicago? Who's taking this one?
It's a toss-up. I mean, as good as Chicago is. That LA pitching has been very good this postseason, and with Hill going on, Hill and Kershaw are each going to get 3 more starts. I mean, this is the first time the Chicago team has really looked like the team's really pressuring them.
Oh, for sure. I totally agree.
The Giants kind of gave them a little bit, but it always looked like the Cubs were in control of that series. And this Dodgers team, they have home field advantage right now.
They do.
They have 3 games in LA before it even gets back to Chicago, and they need 3 games to win. This is the Dodgers series. They have a chance to not go back to Wrigley and just take this series outright.
They could. That's a very scary team, something that the Cubs really haven't faced this year. Somebody totally pressuring them. I like what you said there, Michael. That's all we have time for here on our MLB segment, but stay tuned. We'll be right back with some football with Andreas helping me at the desk. Stay tuned to KURE Sports on ISUtv. Back to KURE Sports on ISUtv. I'm Taylor Mankle. This is a new person. This is Andreas Haffar here, and we're going to talk some football. And for those of you who are uncultured, we mean soccer.
That's exactly what we mean. They always say football in Spain. How many times do we have to say it? They always say football. Everyone's like, football, you mean? Culture yourself.
It's football.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk some football.
That's right.
And of course, we've got to talk about
The big game.
it was the big
The
game.
biggest
game that we've
in English
probably
football.
seen. Yeah.
But it didn't live up to the hype, as it per usual. It did not live. 2 goose eggs. Is that really what I blazed through my midterm exam for? Like, this is not what I.
Tell them what you're talking about.
All right, so Liverpool, Manchester United, biggest derby match in all of England. It's been for a while. They're very heated rivals. About 30 some odd miles separate the two clubs. Two of the historic greatest teams
Yeah.
in English football as far as records go and all that. But as far as the match went, less than historic.
Yeah.
It's been dubbed one of the worst. One of the most unentertaining, boring. As a 0-0, there were some chances there, and come the first half, if you're a Liverpool fan, good lord, so dismal. I had to rewatch it, and I go, why did I rewatch it?
No, the first half was just ugly, defensive on both ends football. They're just nobody was just forcing the attack on them, and you've seen that a lot from Liverpool this year.
Oh yeah.
Granted, they are mainly a second half team. If I was to analyze that squad,
Sure, I
think
for the most part.
Yeah, I think they really put that in the
Absolutely.
second half more than they do in the first half. But this was the most defensive I've seen Liverpool this year by far.
And they're not known for their defense
No,
either.
no.
Manchester United, not as much either, but that's a Mourinho thing, and I'm
Yeah,
going to
that's
get to
their
him in a
coach
second.
thing, yeah.
But yeah, I think you're right. They look nervous. Both teams look nervous, and then Manchester United look a little more confident as they built in, saying we're going to. The strategy is to contain, is to frustrate our opponents, and they did frustrate them.
Oh, I agree.
Very much so,
I agree.
I would say. And for me, I'm thinking they're lucky this wasn't a Sir Alex Ferguson Manchester United team, because had it been him, they would have punished him for that kind
I
of
agree.
defensive errors.
Yeah.
I don't even know, but yes, agreed. The second half, when I got to catch that live, much more fluid,
Yeah.
I would say, with the Liverpool side, but still formidable for Manchester United. As time went on, Manchester United looked like, okay, we're going to stay in this. This is our goal. I think their big thing was to hoof it up to Ibrahimovic, and I've been critical of Ibrahimovic in big game scenarios. This isn't Ligue 1.
Yeah.
This isn't France again.
Yeah.
Big game. Granted, it's not his fault. He's been put in the position where, I have to carry up the team
Yeah.
and people got to go. No, but.
And in this game, they only gave him like one solid chance.
Oh yeah,
to
and
do
actually
so.
it was the goalkeeper, Karius for Liverpool. He gave it up to Pogba, who sends it in and he heads it a little closer to the corner flag. But
Yeah,
it
wasn't a great place
No.
for the header opportunity, but he did have a chance.
He did.
technically,
He
and
did
he's
have a
getting some
chance.
flack for that on Man U's side.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is. And I don't think it's as deserved on the game, but I think if you're going to bring in the big player like that, I think the person who's getting it more is Paul Pogba, who is he's the most expensive transfer in the entire world, and he's probably played one of the worst games I've seen him in a Man U jersey. That's not how you expect someone to play.
Yeah.
Granted, there's a little flack on him, like a Gareth Bale. You got to ease in, but that was not a performance for anyone. Well,
I mean,
there are some
that's what-
players, but
the lights are on. Everybody's watching. This is the game that these players
This is
have
Monday
to perform.
night. All the other Premier League
Yep.
matches of match day 8, I believe, done. You're coming in to watch the whole. Oh, that's big hype up. I'm hyped up.
Yeah.
This is my favorite picture of all time because I'm like, this is great.
And 0-0.
And it's goose eggs. Goose eggs, folks.
2 goose.
But I mean, if you look at the team, Liverpool, they were on a hot streak coming in, right?
Yeah.
They were frustrated. They never settled in, as we mentioned. I think the mind games worked because Mourinho had this. He always has this. When he comes to Anfield, good Lord, he's always it's the same style. He's the guy who coined the term "park the bus." We parked the bus. He took the keys and he locked it away because he doesn't trust himself. Maybe, I don't know. And honestly, and he commented later because Liverpool did have most of the possession of the ball.
for sure.
But it's what you do with it, obviously.
Yeah.
And he commented saying, "Oh, it's a boring match, but it's not my fault." And of course, that's hello Mourinho deflecting your blame again. Oh, blame them. Nah, well, if you concede a goal, maybe that's a little different.
Yeah.
But 9 shots to their 7. I would say there's nothing from the Liverpool side. There's nothing really wrong. You just have to work a little harder. I think it shows that this result. It shows that there's still a lot to do to prove that you're a top team.
I agree.
As far as Liverpool.
Yeah.
Now with Manchester United, like I said, Mourinho was just going on about the referee beforehand, and now he's under. I believe the FA's looking into that, saying that comments were a little not good.
A little too
I guess.
much,
Yeah, a
yeah.
little much, and he's not. He's no stranger to that.
No.
And he might be in trouble for it. But now with this unappealing style, they're in glory Man United, but I'm hearing boring Man United.
Yeah,
like
I was about to ask you. I mean, if you were a fan, or I mean, you're just a fan of football overall. Granted,
yeah.
it is Man U, but still, regardless.
Sure.
If you were a fan putting yourself in these positions, would you be upset with the way they played? Earlier in this season, they'd played more offensively. They played very good offensively. In this game, when you're playing against potentially a more dominant team, a better team, this is when you got to step up. This is when you need some great goals, get some good away points.
Make a statement.
Yeah, they didn't make a statement.
No.
They instead took a step back, played defensive game. Would you be upset?
I would be upset. I'll address this in two ways. I would be upset as a fan in a neutral setting.
Yeah.
Because from an entertainment perspective, that was not. Second half was a little more entertaining. You thought,
Sure,
oh wow,
sure, yeah.
You know, you had Emre Can and Coutinho take two great shots, and they were matched with great saves.
Oh, yeah.
But you have from neutral, it's like that's not great. But if you're a Manchester United fan, say I'm a Manchester United fan.
Yeah.
I'm not, but say I was. That's going to really upset me. That's not going to sit well with me. This isn't the
Agreed.
Manchester United. You know, they should have known this was coming. Ryan Giggs, former player, mentioned it, that this was coming. This is a Mourinho thing. You get
It
Mourinho,
is.
and he's going to do this.
what you
Chelsea,
hired,
the
yeah.
season they won about 2 seasons ago, very attack-minded for the first half. Second half of the season, defended the whole time. They defended their way to the title. And yes, defense wins champions. But no, I think, to be honest, the reason the game was dull was because of Jose Mourinho.
I totally agree.
It's
I
completely
totally
what
agree.
In one of Robbie Earle's comments, one of the NBC sent the correspondents, he said, because he was dubbed the special one. Is he the special one or was he special once? And I'm sitting there going, well, he was special at one point, but is he always going to be the special one? I don't know about that. I think if we saw anything with Chelsea, his time has maybe come up with it.
Do you think he's pleased? Granted, he may have had some coach speak after these matches, but do you think Mourinho is? Do you think he's pleased?
I think he's
going
pleased
out of there
with
0-0?
himself, maybe.
Yeah?
Like, hey, we went in there frustrated Liverpool. That's what, if that's
Yeah.
what he wanted to do, and it seemed like he wanted to do that, then he might be pleased. Are the fans, the players
Absolutely
pleased?
not.
No. I think
Can't imagine they
you could
could.
say it's a pragmatic approach, but I honestly think this is the wrong club for it if you're a Manchester United fan. They're not looking for that. And I think Chelsea thought that for a while too. They got a title, but it's a smart tactic, but it's not going to win you titles, and it's not going to get you in that top spot. And you're not going to win over the fans and the players. No wonder there's turmoil. You have all this. Every club he goes to now, there's something.
Yep.
So I don't know. As far as the players go, and I'll just that I think for Liverpool, your best players were Coutinho. He was very creative, spark. Matip, who held Ibrahimovic at bay. And then you have Emre Can, who fought hard, almost had a goal as well.
Yeah.
I think those were good. If you go to Manchester United, you have De Gea.
Of course.
For the last couple seasons, he's been the best player. He has saved them so many times, and he did it again. And I thought it was. I want to.
He had some
You
brilliant
can't dislike
saves.
him.
Some brilliant saves.
It was
yeah.
amazing. And then you have Antonio Valencia, who's physically strong. He just commanded the right side of the
Sometimes
field.
in the box too.
Oh my gosh! And
Very
you go, wow, you were
opportune times.
pinpoint.
Yeah.
Pinpoint. And you had Andrew Herrera. He was all right. He had enough possession, driving force up. Whatever Man U did anyway. Poor players. Daniel Sturridge. It's the same as Ibrahimovic because I have Ibrahimovic and Sturridge. It's just the holding striker isn't going to do well in a game like this where it's so cagey.
Yeah.
Is the word.
Okay.
Karius, the goalkeeper for Liverpool, almost gave up a goal. He looked nervy the whole time. He almost gave it to Pogba, who Ibrahimovic, had he been the Ibra that everyone knows, would have scored. And Mane wasn't very creative either. I thought it could have been better. And I've said for another poor player, Paul Pogba, you got to do better than that, honestly. And then I said Ibrahimovic and Smalling. He was good overall, but in the air especially. But I think individual battles, he wasn't doing well. Emre Can, he had a handful of his shirt. He wasn't doing well. So, yeah, entertaining, no. Sorry. I'm always excited for this fixture, but it wasn't. And the table stays the same, essentially, because all the games played. Liverpool 4th, United 7th. So we'll see.
There's just so much hype coming
It's
into
just,
this.
I hate it.
And
I mean,
it's just-
there are good 0-0s. There are some good 0-0s, but
this
this
was
is
not a good
not
0-0.
one. You have, it's
got-
not for either team. I don't think they come out
You've
and
got
go,
all the fanfare. You've got everybody excited about it.
Yeah.
This was not a good 0-0, regardless of how much talent was on the field, regardless of how much was built up for this. This was a not fun 0-0.
No. I wish we could. I wish I were here discussing it.
No,
Even
it'd
if,
be a lot better to
either
discuss
way.
that. Yeah.
I would have liked that.
Let's look at some other results, Andreas.
Well, we had over the weekend, Chelsea defeated Leicester 3-0. We had Arsenal. They defeated Swansea 3-2. That was Bob Bradley, former U.S. coach. Bob Bradley, first American coach in the Premier League, as a matter of fact. He almost got through it. Arsenal got a red card. Almost got to a tie, get a point out of that, but not to be. Manchester City and Everton, they tied 1-1. Unbelievable. display from Martin Stekelenburg, the Dutch goalkeeper. He saved 2 penalties, not 1, 2, from arguably Man City's best 2 players, Kevin De Bruyne and Kun Aguero. Unbelievable. It deserved 1-1, maybe even a win, but even in the Premier League fantasy, he was the top guy. And I'm like, how did he get 8? Okay, that's why I got 17 points. He was the man that day. So that makes more sense. And then today, we had Champions League. So Real Madrid, that beat Legia Warsaw. Borussia also win versus Sporting. So those 2 are at the top together. It's 7 points, 2 goal difference there, and Dortmund's on top of it. It's Spurs and Leverkusen draw 0-0, and CSKA Moscow and Monaco do the same thing. So goose eggs all around in that group. Good Lord. And then, so they're about, Monaco sits 5, Spurs 4, Leverkusen 3, and then we have CSKA 2. And then we come to, let's see, some of the biggest one for me. Well, we had Juventus defeat Lyon 1-0, and Sevilla defeat Dinamo Zagreb by the same score. So both sit at 7 points, Juve on top. Leicester won again.
They did.
It's not the most competitive group agreement, but it is the Champions League, and
that's
you're winning.
the thing. They won.
And you're winning.
They continue to win in the Champions League. They're doing it
Exactly. They're sitting on top with 9 points. They beat Copenhagen, which is their next close opponent in the group. So they're at 4 points, and Leicester's at 9. Mathematically, realistically, 2 wins would do it. 1 win gets them just like you're right there, but 2. But my thing is, maybe I'll ask you, because you were wondering who to choose. Will the dream live on, Mankle?
I don't know.
It's a dream. I want to say it will.
It's just I don't know how they continue to do so in Champions play. They bring it out.
They bring it out. Like I said, I think things are taking hits because of the depth of the squad. So the Premier League they're not performing as well. But they already won. Like I said, fans don't care. They've done it once in their life. But in Champions League,
after that, but
they're
Champions League,
can we dream?
They know
big.
You mean they're pretty close.
But they haven't, to be fair, and to be fair, I think Porto might be the one exception. They haven't come up against a huge team yet.
Yeah, I wouldn't say the schedule is great, but I think it's favorable for them, not great in the main
enjoy,
scheme of things.
first Champions League season in Europe. This is fun. You want to see them win. Keep it going. But, come up against, if they get first place, they'll get a second place team in another group, which is, still could be, like you look at Dortmund or Real Madrid, 2 awesome teams.
Good
and so I don't know. Maybe the dream will live on.
It depends on who they draw. That's really where.
Of course, it's all depending. But tomorrow, and I say groups A through D play, you gotta watch the clash of the Titans. Titanic. The momentum will be with 1 or 2 of the teams. Both of them. They're doing here or there because we got Pep Guardiola's former team. I'm not going to tease you any longer. It's Barcelona, Manchester City. Oh, I can't wait to see that one. No goose eggs, please. No goose eggs. I can't do it. I see why people are. I don't like this tying to 0-0. Well, I get it now. I saw.
It makes sense
in
some
game.
aspects when the 0-0 happens. You kind of realize that. Okay, I get why people don't like soccer.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, I'll just mention, like a Brazil, Mexico in the World Cup, awesome 0-0.
Yeah,
Never thought I'd say it, awesome 0-0. But
absolutely. So real quickly before we end, who do you have?
Oh, man. I got Barca Man City 5-5. No. 5-5. No, I could see, I think it's going to be Barcelona, maybe 2-1 on City. It's a safe choice.
I could see that.
But yeah, I could see it. We'll see. Perfect. Again, we'll see what happens.
We will see what happens. That's all we have time for here on KURE Sports on ISUtv. Thank you for watching today, and of course, see you next week.